have? 4.
Oh, wow. That's so great.
4 grandkids, and our youngest is, thank goodness we have grandkids, because otherwise it would be as she grows up, she's a year older than our oldest grandchild.
Gives her somebody to play with.
That's right.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's really sweet. That's amazing.
She's a sweet girl.
That's amazing that you rescued her.
You know what? Of all the things people can do in the world, trying to affect someone's life.
Right.
That's
you changed the trajectory of her life.
Absolutely. Yeah, and she's changing the trajectory of ours.
I bet she is.
No doubt.
I bet she is. She looks like she's a handful, but I bet
she is. But it.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, you see different things at 56 with a 3-year-old than you saw at 30 with a 3-year-old.
Yeah, to do it over again and know what you know. Yeah.
I mean, it's a very different experience.
Right, to parent.
And you also know that
that
it's going to end.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is that sometimes that's a good feeling that it's going to end, and sometimes it's a sad feeling.
Yeah.
So it's really it's just an opportunity to connect with someone, really.
That's amazing. And were you doing charitable outreach to the reservations, or are you just?
No. In fact, my wife's family has had this connection with people her and her grandmother.
And her grandmother.
Grandmother and her mother for years, and we have vowed. We have vowed two of our 7 children were adopted, and 5 were biological, and we had vowed that we would never adopt a Native American, not because because it's so there's such a prejudice in the Native community about a non-Native adopting a Native,
right.
and Native children are controlled by the tribe by the Indian Child Welfare Act.
Right.
And so.
Did you mean to even adopt at all? Were you actively looking to adopt and just came across her case?
No, it was a Sunday afternoon, and the family got talking what's going to happen to, was her name. We just kept we were sitting on different sides of the room, and
just kept thinking
we just kept avoiding eye contact with each other, but once we looked at each other, we realized it's okay.
Yeah.
It's time to talk about that, and so we said to each other, we will do this on 2 conditions. Condition number 1 is that it can be a complete straight adoption, meaning no guardianship. There's no possibility of this child being taken from us.
Right.
And number 2, that we walk in the front door of the tribe, and they give us our blessing. And so I flew up to the reservation.
In Montana.
Montana, and
Cheyenne.
Northern Cheyenne.
Northern Cheyenne. Wow.
And I'm driving
Have
from.
you ever been there? Did you know anyone there? Did you have?
It was a cold contact.
It was just a cold call.
And when driving from.
Sorry, but you're a tall white guy with blue eyes. And
right. Right. And so I rent a car, and I'm driving from Billings, Montana to Lame Deer, Montana, which is the capital of the sovereign nation of the Northern Cheyenne. And I'm thinking to myself, how in the world am I going to do this? And so I said, I'm thinking, and finally this strategy comes into my head. And if you got 5 minutes, I'll tell you the story. It's an interesting story.
Love to hear it. I would love to hear it. That son's going to peek back out again. They can mess with it.
That's okay. Are you rolling or not?
I think he's done.
He can wait.
Your call.
You can wait.
I can wait for what?
No, Aaron can wait. You go ahead. I love this story. I want to hear this.
Anyway, so I go in, and the president of the tribe is in there, and I'm thinking, okay, what do you say here?
Is it a man or a woman?
It's a man.
Okay.
And I introduced myself, and I said, listen, you and I have never met.
Is the president the same as a chief?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He's elected by the tribe.
Okay, got it. So he's the man.
Yeah, he's the guy.
Okay.
And I say to him, I said, I'm here for 2 reasons. I said, I'm here to tell you the second reason first, but I'll tell you I'll tell you the first reason second. And I said, but before I tell you the second reason, I want to tell you a story. He said, okay. I said, there was, in World War II, there was a 14-year-old girl who was taken out of a small village north of Kiev in slavery by the Nazis as a slave to go work in a Nazi labor camp. And about that same time, there was a Soviet soldier in western Ukraine whose company was captured by the Soviets. Excuse me, whose company was captured by the Nazis. And the Nazis would bring these Soviet soldiers in and say, they'd hold up a pencil and ask, what is this? And if you answered that it was a pencil in Russian, they took you out and shot you.
Oh my God.
If you answered that it's a pencil in Ukrainian, they took you to Germany to a labor camp to work. And,
oh, wow.
And this guy heard a message from the guy right in front of him say it's a pencil in Ukrainian. He did, and he wound up in a labor camp where, amazingly, he met this 14-year-old girl, and the two of them fell in love. And they're displaced people at the end of the war. They get relocated to Chicago, where they have a child. And this child is named, they named this child Katerina. And she's raised in American schools, but she's learning the Ukrainian, she's part of the Ukrainian motherland, the diaspora in Chicago, and so she's learning Ukrainian.
Because her father's Ukrainian.
And her mother's Ukrainian. They're both Ukrainian.
Oh, that's true.
And she goes to George Washington University. She works for the State Department. She starts working in the Reagan White House. She's very politically active. And Ukraine, the Soviet Union falls. She's, a woman in her mid-20s. And, just like, she's programmed to go back to Ukraine, to the motherland. And so she goes back to Ukraine. And in Ukraine, she was working in an NGO, and she is in the banking industry. She's an economist, and she has an opportunity she's going on some study trip with a guy who was the head of the central bank, a guy named Victor Yushchenko. And Victor Yushchenko, the two of them married. Victor Yushchenko, if you'll Google, the smile on your face back there, you can recognize.
You figured out the story already?
Victor Yushchenko was the man that was poisoned by the Soviets, by the Russians, who became the leader of the Orange Revolution and overturned,
wow.
and the Orange Revolution is what brought about this incredible turnaround in Ukraine. And so Katya, Victor and Katya, they and I said, it's a great story, but Shalom and I, because of our work in Ukraine, around the time that Victor was leaving the presidency, Victor and Katya and Shalom and I, the four of us became like blood brothers and sisters. Victor's been to Provo. He stays at our house. We stay in their house. They order Amazon.com for us to deliver to Ukraine. I mean, we're just really, really close. And along our conversation, I said, I said to the chief, the tribal president, I said, Victor and I have this goal of introducing buffalo into Western Ukraine. And you're a sovereign nation, and you have a buffalo herd, and Ukraine is a sovereign nation, and it doesn't have a buffalo herd, but it wants one. And so I'm here to try and see if we can form a bilateral agreement between the people of the Northern Cheyenne and the people of Ukraine to introduce buffalo to Western Ukraine. And at that point, he was all ears.
I bet.
And I said, that's the second reason why I'm here. The first reason why I'm here is this, that we want to adopt one of your people, my wife and I. She's running around. She's a 6-month-old baby on this reservation. Don't know where she is, but we want your blessing, because our commitment to you is if you let us adopt her, we will treat her like her parents treated Katja Yushchenko, that when she's older, she'll understand the duty that she has to her people.
Right.
And he gave us his blessing to adopt this little girl, and
That is a beautiful story.
and that's how it started.
That is a beautiful story.
Wow.
Have you seen that salmon fishing? No, yeah, salmon fishing on the Yemen. Have you seen that movie?
No. Oh yes, this is where they introduced salmon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some people in the Yemen, right?
Yeah.
So it sounds similar to your thoughts of introducing buffalo.
Yeah.
In Ukraine, have you had a chance to? Probably just started that, or even.
Well, Victor and I have talked about that a lot, but at that point, then Russia invaded Ukraine.
Oh, well,
and,
that's true. There's
you know,
that.
it has not yet come to fruition.
Would not bode well for any buffalo who would have been there.
Right, and so it's
They would have
it
been
hasn't
soldiers right away.
It accomplished my main objective, but
Right.
our secondary objective still remains.
Yeah. What's the music?
We need to get whoever's playing music. I bet that's the
Beautiful
music
music.
outside.
Sounds like it's outside.
It's
though.
outside. They've got the speaker system outside.
The Larsons, not us.
No, I think it's their speaker system out here.
Be popular with your neighbors and ask them to turn their music off.
It's ours. It's
Be that neighbor.
Right? No offense, but turn your music off. Wait, so what year was that? So she was 6 months?
that was 2017.
Your life has never been
And-
the same.
and,
Did you
well,
bring her home that day?
No,
Or
because
you had to go back?
I literally went knocking doors along the reservation looking for my niece,
Trying to find her.
and she answered the door and said, "Uncle David."
Oh, so her mom is your niece.
Well, her
Through your wife.
through my wife, yeah, through marriage, and then she said she'd, after a very long and twisted set of conversations, she agreed to let us take her, but then she got arrested.
Oh, boy.
And social services came and got her. And
Oh, no.
tribal social services. And tribal social services looked at us and said, "We're not giving you this baby."
Yeah.
And I said, "What do you mean?" And it went back and forth. Finally, tribal social services said, "Well, you got to have a criminal background check for every adult in your family, and if you
Not a problem.
and if you can get that by noon tomorrow morning, by noon we'll give it to you. We'll give you this child." So I went back to this. I was staying in an assisted living center just off the reservation because there was no hotels.
Oh my gosh.
And
Is this a weekend or a weekday?
a weekday, and I'm calling, but it's 6 o'clock at night,
Yeah,
and so
right.
I called every police chief and every district court judge and every social worker in 25 years of law practice that I knew, and pulled a rabbit out of a hat. And by noon the next day, we
Wow.
had background checks done for all of us. And so I called the tribal person and I said, "Okay, here they are." And there was no Wi-Fi. I was in the one place in the reservation that had Wi-Fi. It was the John Woodenlegs Library of the whatever community college up there. And I call her up I'm talking to her on the Wi-Fi, and I said, "Okay." She said, "I'm still not going to give her to you." I said,
The mom or the social worker?
"The social worker."
Oh, because the mom was in jail by then.
Yeah. And I just said, "You know what? You are shameless."
Oh, yeah.
I said, "You are so far more prejudiced than any. I mean, the fact that you won't let a native come. I just let her have it with both barrels, because I figured it was over."
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I was packing up, leaving town, and I was okay. I'd done everything I can for this child. Didn't work out.
Yeah, you tried.
Way we
Right.
go. And just as I was leaving, I just thought, I'm just going to see if I can see that tribal president again. And I went in, and he was in his office, and I said, "Your social worker's just screwing with me." And I gave him the story. And he called her up, put her on speaker, didn't tell her that she was on speaker,
Oh.
and said, "What's going on?" And she said, "I don't want to give him to him." And, I spent 30 minutes with this guy.
Yeah.
And he said, "Listen, the Levitts are friends of the tribe, this baby is family under Indian law and custom.
Mm-hmm.
He's an asset. They're assets to the tribe for more than just this. Do what you want, but from our perspective, these are people that we want to be friends with.
Wow.
He said, good luck. I left, and 5 minutes later, the phone rang, and it was the social worker saying, I think I figured out a way to get this child to you.
Wow.
And so, in a very, I was again at this, this government housing project on the reservation. There was a lay lawyer, which is a thing on the reservation, named Tim Lame Woman, and he had been helping me. And the social worker shows up to Tim Lame Woman's apartment with this 6-month-old baby, and 2 plastic bags full of stuff, and gave me this baby.
There you go.
And I had secured a car seat through some fairly weird means an hour earlier. And I go and I'm trying to figure out how to put this car seat in, and I'm holding this baby and I'm throwing this car seat, and there's this this growing group of Native
Very
Americans,
interested people.
and look at this white guy trying to take this native baby, and
Right.
finally I just thought, forget this. I put the baby in the car seat, not buckled. Car seat wasn't buckled. I just thought,
Drove out very
just
carefully.
drove
Yeah.
out.
It's
Drove.
time to
And
go.
when I was off the reservation, I stopped and got her buckled in.
Yeah.
She's been with us ever since.
That is an amazing story. That is an amazing story. Does the mom ever visit? Is she in prison?
She's not in prison. We send her pictures.
Oh, that's nice.
She's our niece,
Sure.
but she's our is ours, and
Right.
she's not going to have any confusion as to whom she belongs. And
Right.
Shalom is the one that gets kicked all through the night.
And then,
Emma,
then
she
you
sleeps
call,
between
then
us.
you call Sean and say, "Go get a crib, honey,"
Seriously.
Yeah.
and a whole lot of baby stuff.
Yeah, really.
Wow.
She has turned our life upside down.
She has.